In the fluorescent-lit corridors of Golden Pines nursing home, a slap echoes off chipped linoleum, a nurse's hand landing hard on the cheek of a frail, decorated 94-year-old Marine. 15 Hells Angels, leather jackets creased from the road, stand in the doorway, eyes narrowed, loyalty burning like gasoline. What happens next will test the meaning of justice, respect, and brotherhood. What would you do if you saw this happen? Before the story unfolds, drop your city or country in the comments below. Where are you watching this tribute to true heroism and loyalty? Let's see how far respect for veterans and bikers travels tonight. The wind rattled the old windows of Golden Pines nursing home, a forgotten way station tucked at the edge of town. In room 17A, a portrait of faded American glory, Colonel Richard Wallace sat upright in his creased chair, eyes restless, medals gathering more dust than honor. His hands, arthritic but still strong, rested atop a dimpled cane. Every Wednesday, just after sunrise, he stared at the clock and counted the seconds to a rare taste of camaraderie. Tension built in the air. Today was the annual Respect Ride. In just hours, the gravel lot outside would thunder to life with the arrival of 15 Hells Angels, black leather and chrome gleaming beneath the clouds. They came each year, engines howling a promise. The world may forget, but brotherhood does not. Richard clung to that thought. What memories would awaken this time? Nurse Marie Sloan swept through the dim corridors, shoes tapping out a drill sergeant's rhythm. In the break room, staff shrank from her cold stare. Even the night cook fumbled the coffee. She was notorious, efficient, cold, rumored by some to have a mean streak when the lights were low. But as she paused at 17A, tray of pills in hand, it was clear she relished moments of power. Would anyone dare stand up to her today? Richard greeted her with the shaky pride of a Marine, refusing to play the role of old man. "Morning, nurse. Big day coming." Sloan didn't even glance at his medals. "Don't rile yourself, Wallace. The only thing those bikers bring is trouble and noise complaints." She thrust the medication at him, impatient. "Take your pills." Was today the day Richard would brush off her disrespect, or had enough finally become enough? He set his jaw, gave her a hard look. "Some folks ride for loyalty, ma'am. It's a rare thing nowadays." With a small, stinging laugh, Sloan leaned in and, swift as a snake, slapped Richard across the cheek. The shock left a crimson patch, the silence after more scalding than the pain. Would she really get away with this, right as the world looked away? At that exact moment, the first distant roar of engines drifted in through the window. Richard closed his eyes, steeling himself. "They're here, ma'am. Time to meet some real Americans." Sloan's lips curled in disgust. She didn't realize, beyond that window, history itself was rolling in. Downstairs, thunder that wasn't weather rattled the lobby doors. Mike Iron Carver led his crew of 15. Leather, denim, patched colors bright and proud. Every boot that hit the landing sent a tremor through the heart of Golden Pines. "We're here for the Colonel." The front desk nurse hesitated. "He's had an incident." But no locked door or turned back ever stopped a real brotherhood. Would the angels find the Colonel as expected, or witness something that would change all their lives? The corridor was dead silent as Mike strode in, recognized the red imprint on Richard's cheek, and measured Sloan in a single look. What happened? Heads poked from doorways, staff froze, residents listened. The fight, one for dignity and justice, was just beginning. The question now, what would these men do in the face of such open disrespect? The angels locked eyes with Nurse Sloan, whose authority now seemed paper-thin under the scrutiny of leather and legacy. Mike Iron Carver spoke for all 15. "Ma'am, you can have your rules, but today, you answer for what you did." Every biker behind him nodded, eyes fierce, jaws set against injustice. Sloan tried to draw up, chin high, but her voice faltered. You can't tell me how to do my job. I am responsible for these men, for their safety." The administrator stepped forward, clipboard trembling. "Miss Sloan, we saw what happened. This is now a community issue. I have to ask you to remain in your office while we address the situation." Would Sloan comply, or would her pride ignite a new fire? Mike knelt by Colonel Wallace, careful not to crowd the chair. "Colonel, you know you're not alone, right? You got 15 sons here, and a nation watching." Richard, clearing the pain from his eyes, tried to stand. "No man should be left behind, not in battle, not in peace." Cameras rolled, and viewers online began sharing live streams, comments swelling in real time. What happens when the whole world bears witness? Will justice finally be swift? A staff nurse brought a glass of water, voice trembling. "Sir, I'm sorry. The colonel deserves better." Members of the public began gathering in the lobby, word of the incident flying through local networks and veteran groups. Some were angry, some wept, but all demanded one thing: respect. Mike nodded at the youngest biker, who filmed everything. "Record it all. If they try to sweep this under the rug, we'll shake the dust off every rug in town." The bikers fanned through the home, checking on other veterans, listening for stories of neglect. One resident, silent until now, looked up from his crossword and whispered, "They call me Silent Sam. Today, I'll speak." Would other hidden stories finally get a voice? As the lobby filled, administration tried to calm nerves. "We value your courage and your care. Our facility has always honored veterans." But the bikers saw through the PR spin. Mike stepped forward. "If this were true, we wouldn't be here praying we caught the worst before it happened again. The colonel is us. When one is wronged, all are wronged." Day blurred to afternoon. Reporters arrived, microphones bobbing amid the crowd. Locals held up cell phones, some live streaming to hundreds. Mike's next words rang out clear. "Every person in America who brags about freedom owes these men a debt. It begins with protection, and it ends with accountability." Could the pressure of media and public outrage force the system to change? Police cruisers pulled up. Officers entered, respectful of the bikers and wary of the escalating tension. A sergeant nodded at Mike. "We're here for the colonel. We want your statements. Please keep things civil." The Angels complied, but their code was clear. Civility never overrode justice. Inside, Sloan sat in her office, alone, as images of her slap ricocheted across social media. Calls poured into the facility from veterans groups, demanding answers. She stared at her hands trained for medicine, now infamous for harm. Would regret lead to confession, or would defensiveness shield her from truth? Richard spoke quietly to Mike. "I enlisted when I was 17. I thought the fight ended on those beaches, but pain finds a way home. The question is, do we hide from it, or do we step into the light?" Mike squeezed his shoulder, a gesture rooted in respect. "Sir, today you stood taller than any general. Your scar is our call to arms. When the weakest stand tall, what heights can the rest reach?" Late in the day, the administrator addressed everyone, voice breaking. "We will launch a full investigation. No one here will ever be harmed again. That's our promise." Mike looked to the viewers, his voice even steadier. "We will be back until the colonel gets what he's owed by this nation. Not just a safe room, but a legacy." Outside, the sun set behind a row of Harleys, chrome flashing, the lot thick with support. The day's tension had not faded. It had only begun to spread. Comments online called for rallies, for new policies, for a ride in the colonel's honor. The day after the fiery confrontation, Golden Pines nursing home became ground zero for a storm far bigger than any hurricane. Local news vans rolled up alongside the rumble of motorcycles that had settled outside. Mike Carver's face was already familiar to reporters. A weathered grin framed by salt and pepper hair, eyes fierce yet kind. Inside, investigators from the Department of Health briskly moved through halls once silent, now buzzing with murmurs and camera flashes. They interviewed staff, questioned administration, and listened carefully to veterans' families. Walls that once echoed calm now felt like cages opening to daylight. Would the truth finally breach decades of secrets and silence? Richards's family stood firm. His granddaughter, Kate, had acted quickly, documenting bruises, gathering medical records, collecting testimonies from residents. "We weren't going to let this get swept under the rug," she told the cameras. "Grandpa deserves dignity." Every photo, every word, tightened the noose of accountability. On social media, the video of Nurse Sloan's slap sparked a wildfire of outrage and solidarity that stretched across states. Respect rides trended, with veterans, bikers, and civilians rallying virtually and in person. Hashtags like Elder Justice and Honor Our Heroes flooded feeds, bulking the movement into a digital reckoning. How would the nursing home respond to this tidal wave of public scrutiny? Administrators issued cautious statements emphasizing commitment to investigation and improvement, but the public demanded faster action. Families and activists gathered in marches, cutouts of Colonel Wallace alongside banners that read, "No more silence." Biker clubs nationwide sent letters of support, pledging West Coast to East Coast justice. Would these voices create lasting change or fade with news cycles? Inside Golden Pines, tensions between staff and outsiders simmered. Some employees remained steadfastly defensive of Nurse Sloan, while others whispered apologies and reassurances. The divide was clear: tradition-bound caretakers versus emergent advocates. The question loomed: who would protect the vulnerable when their defenders became the accused? Meanwhile, Richard spent long hours reflecting on the battles wound tight within these walls. He penned letters to politicians, veteran organizations, and elder care groups, urging reforms. If we cannot protect the last chapters of those who fought for us, what hope do the young have? His voice, once commanding regiments, now sought audiences over paper and airwaves. Beneath the surface, Mike and his angels planned more than just rides. They coordinated with lawyers, healthcare advocates, and national veteran groups to launch a campaign spanning policy reform and public awareness. "This isn't just about one slap," Mike told his crew. "It's about reclaiming respect for every hero left behind." Could leather-clad bikers rewrite the rules of elder care? The spotlight shifted to the legal realm. Formal complaints piled up. Investigations revealed systemic gaps: chronic understaffing, faded training, and negligent protocols. In boardrooms far from the patient rooms, executives debated damage control, but community pressure kept the heat constant. Would justice be served behind closed doors or weighed publicly for all to witness? As night fell on Golden Pines, bikers guarded the lobby, engines idling like sentinels in the dark. Residents discussed the day's news, some cautious, some hopeful. Every face held stories. Every story demanded respect. Outside, flags flew high, a silent promise that for these men, this fight was far from over. The morning brought a buzz unlike any other at Golden Pines. Outside, reporters, lawyers, and veteran advocates crowded the parking lot. Inside, investigators from the state health department examined every inch of the facility. They interviewed staff, scrutinized records, and took photographs of injuries that told stories louder than words. Richard watched quietly from his hospital bed, his wounds also healing in silence. He had seen veteran deaths, battlefield wounds, and last breaths. This was a different kind of battle, one fought in courtrooms and community halls. His voice, once loud with commands, now trembled with a different kind of strength. "You see that?" he told Mike quietly, pointing to a reporter interviewing an ex-caregiver. "They're not just here for us. They're here for the truth." Mike nodded. "This can't be swept under the rug, brother. Justice is the only thing that'll change this place." and the system that made it forget us. The investigation team moved through the home meticulously. Medical records, staffing logs, and surveillance footage were examined. Eyewitness accounts painted a picture of neglect, and patients' bruises told stories more painful than war stories. The community watched with bated breath, all eyes on Golden Pines. Social media exploded. Hashtags like "Justice for our vets" and "Respect the elders" trended nationwide. Videos of the incident, interviews with residents, and bikers' demands for accountability flooded YouTube and Twitter. Every share, comment, and live stream built pressure on the authorities and the facility. How long could silence last when the whole country was watching? Meanwhile, legal teams prepared for the next phase. Family members gathered evidence, photos, and testimonials, building a case that demanded accountability. They knew their fight was far from over. As the investigation unfolded, the community prepared for the storm that could change everything. Inside, the nurse who slapped Richard pieced together her defense, but even her allies knew the truth was becoming undeniable. The face of justice, embodied by the biker brothers and the families, was relentless. A wave of reform was coming. The only question was how violent or peaceful it would be. Outside, the protesters gathered in quiet solidarity, banners fluttering in the wind. "Heroes honor, elders dignity," read one. "We ride for justice," another. As engines rumbled in the distance, the message was clear. This wasn't just about one incident. It was about changing an entire culture of neglect and abuse. This was the beginning of a reckoning, a fight to restore honor to America's veterans. Would the truth finally set them free, or would the system's walls suffocate justice? The courtroom, when it finally opened its doors to Golden Pines, felt more like a battlefield for honor than a place of law. Families filled benches, reporters crowded the hallways, and the Hells Angels stood firm, silent sentinels of justice. Every detail was scrutinized. Medical files, surveillance footage, eyewitness testimony. The walls absorbed decades of neglect now screamed into the record. Would the scales of justice tip toward reckoning or silence? Richard Wallace sat with his family, strength welded to vulnerability. The judge's gavel rang out reminders. This was not just about one slap, but a pattern of abuse inflicted on those who had given their all. Attorneys laid bare the nursing home's failures, cut staff, ignored complaints, a culture that bred disrespect and danger. The defense faltered under mounting evidence. Outside, protests turned hopeful. What began as anger became action. Volunteer networks formed. Organizations dedicated to elder rights swelled with new voices, bikers and civilians alike, fueling the push to rewrite policies, raise funding, and rebuild trust in places meant for care. Mike Carver addressed the crowd once more. "Today, we don't just fight for Colonel Wallace. We fight for every forgotten hero, every voice silenced behind these walls. Justice is our ride home." Engines roared in unison, a symphony of solidarity rolling down streets and into hearts. Weeks later, Richard's hospital bed was replaced by a restored community room at Golden Pines, now named Heroes Hall, a place for veterans to share stories and strength. Nurse Sloan, humbled by consequence, returned with apologies, her tenure changed by reflection and remorse. Richard's voice, though frail, carried wisdom beyond his years. Mercy, like freedom, is a fight worth having, and sometimes it just needs a second chance. The bikers' annual Respect Ride became a national event, symbols of change roaring across states, a promise not just to the past but the future. And when engines thundered near Richard's porch, his smile outshone the sun setting behind Kansas plains. The story closes on a final screen. When someone knocks and says, "We need shelter, please," the real answer is found in the strength to open the door.